What should I pack when I get hired on a cruise ship? The hard part about packing for a cruise ship is trying to figure out the balance between how long you're going to be there and how little space you actually have to store your stuff. So for me, my contracts were 6 months, and some people's contracts were 9 months, some people's contracts were 6 weeks, but for the most part, I think you're going to end up bringing the same amount of clothes. Now, with that said, with the stuff you bring, there's always differences. There's differences between, I guess you could say, men and women, and outfits and stuff like this. What you might want to bring, things like that. There's also differences between jobs. Some jobs, like mine, I was provided more or less a uniform. So my job, I was provided some of my uniform, and I still brought some other elements to it, so I didn't have to bring. And then I wore the same uniform every single shift. Like my job only had one uniform, right? So I wore the same thing every day, more or less. So I was given a couple of these shirts and a couple of elements of my uniform, and then for the most part of my contract, I was wearing the same thing. Other people's jobs are given their full uniform, from shirts, pants, and shoes, like people who work in the restaurant, and they also might get several different uniforms to wear for depending on what restaurant they work in, right? So they might be given like 5 or 6 uniforms, but it's provided to them, so they don't have to bring all their own shirts and all their own, not everything for work like that. And then there's other jobs like, in particular, cruise staff. And this leans more toward the entertainment department, and maybe some of the sales positions for some of the concessionaires, maybe up in the art dealers or whatever. They might bring all their own suits and stuff, and dresses. But the cruise staff are given lots of uniforms. But then, like, during the day, they have their day uniform, and then at night they have a night uniform. And sometimes the night uniform is actually their own clothes. If they want to dress up nice, they might wear a suit, they might wear a button down, girls might wear a skirt or a dress or whatever. If it's a fancy night, they wear something fancy with high heels, and if it's not so fancy, it's somewhat more casual. But so a lot of it has to do with your position and what you want to bring. But we all do live on the same ship, and we all share the same accommodations, and so I would say it's probably much harder if your position is bring all your own stuff, because that you want to bring as many things as you can, so you don't constantly repeat what you're wearing, but at the same time, there's just no room. You have like this little door in this little closet to hang up some of your clothes. You have like 1 or 2 drawers to put everything else in. There's just no room. Finding a place to keep shoes, that's a huge thing. Just you pack and then you hope to make it work. My packing was, I brought one large duffel that was on wheels, and it was too big for carry on, so it was a really big duffel bag that I would check on the plane. And then I had a smaller duffel I could wear around my shoulder, which was small enough to fit in the overhead storage on an airplane. And then I took like a backpack, which I put some other stuff in. So I guess I had 3 kind of bags, but one was big enough to check, one was small enough for a carry-on, and then I had my personal item, that you're allowed on the plane nowadays. The ship, or the company, at least for Norwegian, did pay for the checked baggage, but I'm trying to remember, the airlines was like, your first bag is $25, and your second bag is like $100, and your third bag is $500. So if you're bringing a lot of stuff, I mean, at some point it's just too much money. So the ship will reimburse you if you have the receipts up to a certain amount of money. They're not going to reimburse you if you bring 3 suitcases on the ship and spend like $300 in baggage fees. And that also, it's also for overweight baggage. At the airports it can be like 50 pounds or whatever. Um, in the States at least, they will those fees can get extremely expensive, and the ship won't pay for that. So you do have to kind of make sure you pack. And I remember when people leave the ship, they'll actually take their suitcases down to like the crew gym, and they'll put their suitcases on the scale to see how much it weighs, just to be safe. Because I've been at the end of one of my contracts, I was in line at the airport with some other crew members, and one girl, they said her bag was too expensive, and so she moved to the left, and she opened her bag and she started pulling crap out in front of everybody and trying to figure it out. And I was like, man, it would just be a lot better just to not worry about this kind of stuff, and maybe not try to overpack all your stuff. So I would say simplicity. Pack as little as you can. I mean, seriously, because it can become a hassle. And a lot of times you might not even wear all the clothes that you bring. You see, I'm sure we've had those vacations where you bring 10 different outfits and you end up wearing like two. This is it. You should probably be a little more practical when it comes to this. And I know that the first contract is confusing, and obviously the next contract you figure it out. And I packed even less the second time, but I also packed a little differently. Let's say you're a musician though, and you have to, obviously part of your packing needs to be your instrument. If you bring a bass or two bass guitars or two electric guitars or whatever, I'm not a musician, so I don't know how that works, but because that's part of your expected attire, basically, I'm pretty sure the ship will pay you to bring that. But even then, that's a discussion with your agency or with the entertainment side in Miami that you're in contact with before you start working on the ship. These are all questions you should ask them, because they might say, yeah, we'll pay up to 2 guitar cases, or we'll pay for the first guitar case, and if you want to bring a spare guitar, we'll pay for half. Or it's not going to be bring every piece of equipment you have in your house and it's all good. And then on top of that, if you're bringing 5 guitars onto a cruise ship, where are you going to put them? Because to my knowledge, there's not just a big old music room with a lock and key that you get to store your stuff. You keep it in your room. You stand it up against a wall. I mean, that's why the guitar players, at home, they might have 10 guitars, but a lot of the musicians I spoke with, they would just bring a very practical, really good, all around, can do a lot of stuff kind of toned guitar, so that they can play jazz on it and it sounds pretty good. They can play rock on it, sounds pretty good. They can play the stage shows, sounds pretty good. You see what I mean? Instead of hoping that it's going to work out to have all the different guitars, and it's not. It's because there's a lot. It's not easy. I'll put it that way. My uniform was just a black shirt, black pants, black shoes. And my first contract, I was really going by the T. I read the company gives you like a list of stuff, or at least they should. If they don't, ask them, But I was just wearing a black shirt and black pants and black shoes. The paper. See what I learned as I was reading the paper. The 2 biggest departments are like the restaurant and the hotel, right? So a lot of these rules for this general paper are kind of aimed toward people who work in restaurants and people who work for the hotel. So there was kind of a clash there as I was trying to figure it out. Like, for instance, the grooming policy, because I wanted to have facial hair on my cruise ships, or I wanted at least to know if I could or not. And so when I talked to the recruiter, she actually told me that no, you're not allowed to have facial hair at all, just total. And I was applying to be a broadcast technician in the tech department in the theater and the entertainment. I was not part of the restaurant, but she said no one's allowed to have facial hair. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, because I really wanted to have facial hair at this time. And then I said, well, I went back and read the policy, and it says I can have facial hair. And she said, well, you can have a mustache, but most people don't want a mustache, so I just tell people no. I said, well, that's not the truth. Shouldn't you tell me the truth? And so I said, okay. So what I did is the day before I left my contract, or the day before I left for my first contract, I shaved my face and I cut my hair, and then I flew to the ship. I walked on the cruise ship, and basically every person who was not working in the restaurant had facial hair like this. And I said, well, that's strange that the recruiter would just lie to my face. I guess it was to my ear. We were on the phone. She would lie to me when I asked her very specific questions. So sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you just have to figure it out when you get there. I was kind of upset about that because, I just grew a beard immediately, not a big deal. But I did feel like I was kind of lied to, because I did ask very specific questions to the recruiting team, and I felt that they misled me in some of these specific questions just a little bit. But that's who if you would like to shave, who cares? It doesn't matter. Facial hair grows, but there's more things to worry about. My first partner was crew staff, or my first roommate. Sorry, my first roommate was crew staff. No, that's not true. My first roommate on my first ship was a musician, and he didn't have a lot of clothes because I guess he just didn't care. He had a couple of pairs of shoes, but his job was just bass player in the lounge, and they wore like one or two maybe outfits when they played music, when they played every couple of hours. So most of his clothes were like shorts and t-shirts and whatever if he was going to go off the ship. But on my second ship, my roommate was a crew staff, and he had like so many clothes. He had so many clothes. Did he wear them all? Maybe. But he was crew staff, and I worked with crew staff, and they have different outfits all the time, every single time. And obviously some people just like more clothes. It wasn't his first contract. He knew what he could get away with. Not a big deal. But with a lot of clothes comes laundry. And there is laundry on the cruise ship, but this is an element to the ships that I really didn't enjoy very much. We had several different crew laundry facilities, and some different stairwells. And let's say there were about 10 to 12 washers and 10 to 12 dryers in each of these laundry facilities just for crew, for free. Let's say there was 10 in there. There's a good chance at least 5 of them are going to be broken. The whole contract, every single time. And then you could go to the next stairwell to the next laundry facility, and there might be 10 washers and 10 dryers in there, and 5 of those washers are probably going to be broken too. Just assume most of the laundry facility appliances are going to be broken. So now you're cut down to like only a handful of washing machines on the entire ship for crew. And there's 1,200 crew at least, even on the smaller ships. You got to figure out when you're going to do laundry. And it's not super quick. They're like industrial style washers, but they get broken for some reason. People can still break these things, and people will have their laundry set on fire. Some people just don't know how to do laundry, I guess. So these things get broken, and it's lots of stuff on the cruise ships. It kind of moves slowly, especially if something needs to get replaced. It's not going to get replaced for a very long time. That's just the nature of the beast. So be prepared to have very, very few washers and dryers. It's just, and makes doing laundry very, very difficult. That's why I would strongly advise to bring as many clothes as you think you could possibly have. More importantly, though, bring an insanely large amount of underwear and an insanely large amount of pairs of socks. Like, fill half your bag with underwear and socks. The thing about it, and I don't want to get too blue here, if you wear a t-shirt on Monday to crew bar for 3 hours after work, and you're just chilling so you're not going to get sweaty, and then you put it back in your closet, and then you wear that same shirt Friday or the next Monday at Crew Bar or whatever, or the next day. Who cares? Nobody cares. It's not dirty, in my opinion. It's not dirty. And so to wear a t-shirt or any piece of clothing for a day and then throw it in the camper, you can do that. If you want to do that, by all means do it. Some people are kind of weird about germs or whatever. I'm not saying don't ever wash clothes, because that is kind of gross. But working on ships, sharing laundry facilities, things being broken, not having a lot of time in your day to do laundry, it's such a hassle. And so I kind of tweaked how I looked at the clothing and how dirty they were, you know. So if you wear a t-shirt one time for an hour every day, and just your laundry's going to fill up really quickly, and you might have to do laundry every week. And some people do it. Some people, I guess, like that. I absolutely can't handle the idea of doing laundry on a cruise ship every week. That would drive me insane. It drove me insane to do it once every however many times I did it. I had a lot of socks, and a lot of underwear. So I didn't do laundry until I ran out of underwear. So I did laundry maybe once every 3 weeks, maybe a little longer into that. I had a lot of pairs of underwear to get me through. However, the caveat to that was when I had to do laundry, I really, really needed to do laundry. So it was kind of a double-edged sword. So I had like a super huge amount of clothes, most awful experience doing laundry, but I did it once every month, once every 3 weeks, something like that, versus people doing a little bit less laundry, but they do it every single week. Absolutely not. 100% not. I refuse to do laundry that much. Now, if you're an officer or a manager, you have a better position. All of us with uniforms, we can give our cabin steward our work uniforms and they'll wash it. Some other departments do have privilege. I actually may have had privilege in my rank that I could have given all my laundry to the ship and they might have done it. However, do you trust the cruise ship laundry? Do you trust that you'll get all your clothes back? Do you trust that all of your clothes, every single article of clothing that you give them, is going to come back the way you want it to? Are the whites going to be white? Are the colors going to be color? Still, not be faded? You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on your level of what you want. I mean, some people don't have that privilege. And I never gave clothes. If I'm thinking at some point I was allowed to give clothes, maybe if I wanted to. And some people are weird about giving other people like their underwear and stuff. That's just, how people are. But I didn't want to give them my laundry because I didn't think they'd get it back to me in a timely manner. At least if I do laundry on Tuesday and I find a washing machine to do myself, I can do it all on Tuesday and I can get it done. It might take a couple hours, but I can get it done and then I'm done for however long. But if I give the steward my clothes, I don't know when I'm going to get that stuff back. And some of this stuff I need, like uniform stuff, I need. So I actually was washing my own uniform because I was allowed to. I don't know if I was allowed to, but I did because it was only a t-shirt. If I had some uniforms or nicer clothes, buttoned, like in the restaurant, button downs and ties, and they need to be dry cleaned or ironed or stuff like that. So there's just different realms, and some of these situations you'll run into once you start working, and then you quickly adapt to it. One thing I never adapted to was how miserable it was doing laundry. I tried as hard as I could to not do laundry. So the less clothes you bring, the more you might have to wash them. So bring a lot of clothes, but if you bring too many clothes, you can't put them anywhere. You see how hard it can be, and then you start talking about shoes, and there's nowhere to put shoes. So if you bring 15 pairs of shoes, I probably brought 5 or 6. I brought my work shoes, my running shoes for the gym, maybe 2 pairs of flip-flops, and then 2 pairs of casual shoes, so maybe 6, let's say 6 pairs. And then those 2 casual shoes, I had one that were black and some that were brown, just so I could kind of mix and match. But I don't care because I wore jeans for the most part. If I was walking around a crew bar or whatever, I wore jeans. And for guys, it doesn't really matter what kind of shoes you wear anyway. For ladies, it was a little different. They wanted to bring lots of shoes, some of them want to bring more things, and that's your prerogative. Just be aware that there's not going to be a lot of places to put them, but people make it work. I advise you to pack light, or maybe pack one bag and then put that bag inside of a bag and then check that onto the plane. Because then you can come back home and you can fill up that second bag with stuff that you buy while you're on the cruise ship. One part about us working there, a big reason people go is because they're traveling. And when you travel, it's totally okay to purchase things, to purchase items for gifts to bring home, to purchase little. I had friends who bought a magnet in every single port we went to, so that when they get home, they could have their whole, like a mosaic of magnets of all the places they visited. I thought that was kind of cool. Some people bought gifts for their family in lots of different places. And my second ship was in New Orleans, Louisiana for a little while. And the dock, or the pier that we were on every embarkation day, was right next to this like mall kind of thing. And I walked into this mall and there was this store that sold jackets. And it was like the summertime, but I really liked these jackets. And I ended up buying two. And then I was on the ship. I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to get these jackets home. What if they don't fit in my bag? And so you will end up buying stuff. Or if your ship starts off in a hot place like Mexico, and then your itinerary changes and you go to like Europe where it's cold, or Alaska or something, and you forget to pack for the changing in climate and stuff, you'll probably, like, if your ship goes to Alaska and you didn't bring a jacket, you're probably going to buy a jacket, and then you got to figure out how to get the jacket home when you fly back. And if you packed to the brim 2 big suitcases stuffed full when you got to the ship, you have all this stuff that you can't bring home. Some people don't care. Some people just give people some, like the girl I dated on my third ship, she bought all these blankets for some reason, and then when she left the ship, she just left all the blankets in the room. Whatever, she didn't want them anymore. I tend to not be like that, just throwing away. I'm sure they were like cheap blankets, but you know what I mean. I just don't want to. I'm not going to buy a jacket and leave it on the cruise ship, or throw it in the trash, or just give it to somebody. I bought the jacket because I wanted it, At least the jackets I bought in Louisiana, I wanted them to keep. If I went to Alaska and I just needed someone to keep me warm, I might buy a cheap jacket and then not care. But I don't know. I mean, if you pack light and you leave some room to bring some stuff later home, you can collect all these items from places that people, you can say, oh yeah, I was in, when my ship was in Germany, I bought this German thing, this German piece of clothing, and then you take it home and you're unique because no one else you're around at your home has ever been to Germany and bought a shirt from that place, or bought a jacket from that place, or bought shoes from that one store in that, port in Italy. You see what I mean? I think part of your experience should be wanting to kind of indulge a little bit in the things that you get. The money's low on the cruise ship, but the perks are big if you get to travel. So go off the ship in Greece and buy something cool, because it's a memory, and you can kind of brag to your friends a little bit about it. And no one else, when you come home, you have all this cool stuff that you would have never gotten back home. You see, so I prepare for that, and not even that. If you see a pair of shoes in Greece or whatever, a shirt in Greece, and you want to get it for your mom, or you want to get it for your friend back home, you got to be able to bring it home. You know what I mean? So the packing strategically for when you get there, because there's not any room, but strategically to prepare for when you leave, so try and leave a little bit of space. The cruise ships did have cruise store where you could buy like candy and like on the ship you could buy like food, some food and stuff. And they also sold like laundry detergent. They sold toothpaste. They sold toothbrushes. They sold shaving cream. So they sell. It's like a convenience store. Like they sold all the stuff, all the essentials that you might need. Like or like if you go to a hotel and you forget something, they'll have some of this stuff for you in case. They have all that stuff, all that stuff on the cruise ship, but you're paying for it, right? So you don't necessarily have to. I didn't bring my own laundry detergent, but I did bring my own soap because I have soap that I like, and I brought my own toothpaste because I like specific toothpaste. I have like sensitive teeth, and I wanted whitening and all these other things, so I brought it. Because on the cruise ship they only had like one kind of toothpaste, and they had like one or two kinds of detergent and stuff like this. And the thing is, if you need like the hypoallergenic stuff, if you get allergies from like detergent soap, from laundry soap or whatever, the ship won't have it. They only have like the one or two things that they have. It's not a mass store. They only have what they have, right? So if you have those needs, yeah, you might have a little bit of an issue. But for the most part, ports are places with stores, So at least at some port that you get off, you should be able to go somewhere and purchase stuff that you need. There might be a Walmart or a Target or a gas station or whatever. Just if there's something you need. We're not on the we're not in space. There's places you can go. But at the same time, I don't think you should waste an entire port day just going to Walmart. I was fine buying laundry detergent on the cruise ship, and then when I get off in port, I don't have to go to the store. I can go off to the beach, or I can go explore. You see, so it's kind of just, you have to balance kind of the stuff you need and stuff you want. And then depending on where you're from, it might be more expensive to buy something on land, more expensive to buy something on the ship. It's a matter of what you want and what you need and what you're willing to spend. Devices, electronics. I took my laptop the last 2 contracts, but I never used it. The main things I used were a tablet to watch movies. I bought an Android tablet actually while I was on the cruise ship at like a Target or something, because I wanted something to be able to watch. And it was like $200 for this Android tablet. It was nice. I had my iPod, and I took my phone because sometimes I'd want to get Wi-Fi every once in a while. And actually, my phone didn't connect to Mexican Wi-Fi, or the Wi-Fi in the Mexican ports that we went to on my first ship. That's actually the main reason I bought the tablet, just so I could connect to the internet sometimes. But I would advise bringing maybe like an external hard drive or something, so that you can share movies and get movies from people, or you can make friends with the DJ who's on the ship, and go to their cabin and just snag some of their money if they're cool, or some of their don't snag their money, snag some of their music if they're cool, and you can get a lot of great music, But so there is a kind of this media sharing thing on the ship if you want to share movies and music and stuff. But really, don't let the electronic devices rule your life. The Wi-Fi is not good on the ship or in some of these ports. And don't go on vacation looking for Wi-Fi is my advice. So when you get off the ship, go explore. I would rather you have just an old digital camera rather than like your phone, because when you have your phone, you're going to be seeking out Wi-Fi. But and you have a camera, but if you have a camera, you're going to be seeking out memories to take pictures of. So explore, but don't care so much about the Wi-Fi. You know what I mean? But the most important thing I can advise to bring: earplugs. Bring earplugs when you sleep. Your roommate will snore. It will be terrible. Bring earplugs. If you don't even bring clothes, just bring earplugs. That's the only thing that matters. Every roommate is the worst snorer you'll ever hear. Bring earplugs. If there's one thing you get from this, bring earplugs. So good luck packing. Don't forget the earplugs, and enjoy your first contract.